All right, welcome back to One Nation. Look at the circle. A Russian missile crashing into a Ukrainian apartment building. That happened earlier today. Senator Lindsey Graham been all over this. He's probably visited more war zones than any other active politician. Says he has a way to put Vladimir Putin on his back foot and start dictating terms to him. How about it? Senator Lindsey Graham, always great to talk to you. First off, how can we stop watching and reacting and start getting him thinking about us?
Well, number one, never in the history of the world has a bad guy been so exposed as Putin is right now. Their entire economy in Russia depends on the oil and gas sector. How about this idea? Shut it off. Don't buy Russian oil and gas. Produce more American oil and gas. We should have as much will to produce oil and gas to help our economy and our allies as the Ukrainians do to stand up to a Russian tank. To the Biden administration, I want to help you, but you got to help yourself. The single best thing we could do is to stop the oil and gas sector in Russia from thriving and increase oil and gas production in America to help our own citizens and to help our allies.
You know what they're going to say? If I stop that, it jacks up the price of gas in America and puts more pain at the pump to the average American / voters. So what do you say to that?
Yeah. I think that's wrong. We buy 500,000 barrels a day from Russia. Is it possible that the United States could extract 500,000 barrels of oil to make up for what we buy from Russia? Yes. Is it possible we could sell liquefied natural gas to the Europeans so they'd be less dependent on Russian oil and gas? Yes. We got to have the will. And let me just say this. We're not in a war with the Russian people. We're in the war with a single man, Putin. He could give a damn about Russian public opinion, but he does care about himself. So you should make Russia the most extreme case of COVID on the planet. Nobody goes in and nobody goes out. Here's what I worry about. I'm in awe of the Ukrainian people. I have never seen a leader rise to the occasion more than President Zelensky has done. I'm in awe of the men and women of the Ukraine who are literally willing to die for their freedom. So here's my statement to the American people. It is in our interest to help. When it comes to Putin, you pay now or you pay later. We should have every C-17 we got in the air flying in food, fuel, ammo into Poland to get into the Ukraine to help them in this fight. But the more successful the Ukraine is against Russia, the more likely Putin is to go scorched earth. All the things that General Keane said the Russians have done wrong, they can correct. And they have the ability militarily to destroy the Ukraine. We have to tell Putin now, don't go down that road.
Gotcha. But right now, the Black Sea, they want to take control of it. They don't have control of the skies.
Right.
Do you think there's a window there for NATO allies, just the U.S., you pick them, to hold the ports and get a no-fly corridor?
Well, number one, I don't think we need a no-fly corridor. We just need to continue to fly into Poland and have the Ukrainians on the other side of the border drive in the ammo, the fuel, the food. We can do that. The Odessa port should be considered, a safe place to go in and out of. The Russians don't own the Black Sea. They don't own the skies above the Ukraine. But how smart do you have to be to figure out how to hurt Putin the most? Go after his personal assets and declare war on the Russian oil and gas sector. It will hurt us in the short term. We can replace what we buy from Russia. It will hurt the Russian people. Right. To the Russian people, I know you don't want this, but as long as Putin is your leader, you'll have no place in this world. You can't achieve your dreams. You're going to live in abject poverty and misery. You need to get rid of this guy.
Are you for taking action? Are you for establishing that and making it going to the UN to say these people for humanitarian aid and further aid, the Russians don't own this country? Yeah. Why are we pretending like they do?
Yes. I'll say, number one, the UAE, my friends, I just was there last week. Please don't abstain from a resolution condemning Putin. To the Biden administration, I want to work with you. I appreciate the Germans, what they have done. Too little, too late, in my view, but we still have a chance to correct. If we had laid out what would happen in great detail before Putin went in, he may not have gone in. I want swift heavy, not swift light. If I thought there was a way to stop Putin from killing thousands of Ukrainians without being tough, I would choose that way. He only understands the language of tough. to the American people, this fight is our fight. I'm not asking for ground troops in Ukraine, but if you want to have to pick your own leader, so do the Ukrainians. If you want to live free, so they want to live free too. What can we do to help? Supply them with food, fuel, equipment, and arms, and as a nation, lead the world to stop Putin before it gets completely out of hand. His oil and gas sector is his Achilles heel. If we had the will to increase our oil and gas production and shut his off, it would change everything overnight.
Well, I know, but you're talking to a country, logical people. This administration has a guy named John Kerry who wholly hopes that Vladimir Putin does not forget about climate change. He's still thinking about greening the economy and hopes that Russia realizes the parts of their country is thawing out. I am not joking.
Yeah. Those who can adjust during difficult times do well in history. Those who can't adjust are going to be condemned by history. So I'm not asking. I'd like a lower carbon economy. I believe climate change is real, but what's the most real in front of us right now is if Russia gets away with destroying the Ukraine, China's going into Taiwan, and Iran's going to sprint to a nuclear weapon. We have three bad actors at the same time: China in Asia, Russia in Europe, and Iran in the Mideast. What we do today and in the coming days can determine whether or not this world stays stable. So if I thought there was a way to deal with Putin without creating problems here at home, I would do it. But pay now or pay later. So final thought, go after his oil and gas sector.
Gotcha. Senator, real quick. Right now, we're asking the Russians to help us get a deal with Iran on their nuclear program. Should we be sitting down asking for Russia's help with Iran? Better yet, should we be trying to get a deal with Iran?
We should, in my view, continue a maximum pressure campaign against Iran. If you ever do a deal with the Iranians about their nuclear program, how about this? Have the Arabs at the table and the Israelis at the table who are in the crosshairs of Iran. This whole idea of negotiating with the Iranians without the Arabs and Israel at the table is a mistake. At the end of the day, Trump got Iran right. I think a JCPOA round 2 is not going to deliver what we hope to have occur here. I think the Ayatollah doesn't want nuclear power. I think he wants a nuclear weapon. And if he ever got one, I think he would use it. So we should stop negotiating and making him stronger. We should make him weaker.
You put him back, let him sell his oil. He builds up his proxy forces to cause chaos in the Middle East. Goodbye, Abraham Accords. It's not that difficult. Senator Lindsey Graham, thanks so much for taking the tie off on a Saturday night on this serious time. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
You got it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.